slapping rappers since Sean P passed on. Industry make the thing we love again, make the trash on. Pain towards the word, so I drag on. Wishing for something to keep me hopeful, like waiting on dad calls. Path towards the truth, so I rap, Lord. Look and twist the karma of his past to mix the good with the bad thoughts. Never I spend $1 on a beat or a rap form. Rather I spend an hour on the bin for some samples. And I'm cool with me playing my role. Clocking in, but not in tune with the selling the souls. Want the bag, but I could use it to build us a home. You don't follow, you compare cause you weren't taught to have thought, you were taught to follow. I'm the motto of theism in human form. Problem, but the ever wish to stop at the circles roll. Middle ground of trials, it's a scripted in vocal form. Battleground the sound that you wish you could call your own. And we do this shit for hip hop.
On a personal level, I would say it's there's a lot of history in it. You know what I mean? It's not like something that just happened overnight.
It's been a process from the rip. Like, you know, like Jafet basically handpicked us, you know, on some like, you know, Bill Belichick shit. You know?
He introduced me to K. He introduced me to a few people, you know, but he introduced me to K, and then we just started clicking up. You know what I mean? We started hanging out, and you know, the rest is history, really.
It's been years. Like, I've known Giano for over 10 years. You know what I mean? Known Kane and Daniel 5 years each. So it's been a long journey.
You know, and me, I'm the youngest. So, you know, working with them is just like, it's been the ultimate growth experience for me at this point in my life where, you know, I was in a group before in my life and I was at the youngest stage. And, you know, all of us were very young. And now to take all the experience I garnered since 14-year-old all the way to, you know, 24-year-old. Now it's like working with these fellas who, you know, 4 years older than me sometimes. It's like a really accelerated pace, you know, no bullshit type of a facility. You know what I mean? And we took a good year and some change to develop not just our kinship, you know, our friendship as a bond, but a creative space where we could be ourselves. And through that, you know, I gained some of the most, you know, truest lessons of brotherhood. Then I, you know, and I already had great ones, so it's already been a blessing. So this has just been like, I felt like the catapult, you know what I mean, as a man and as a young man, you know what I mean?
So I would say, like, you know, I'm like the person that helped put like these particular people together. And I just, obviously, I saw something special in each of them, you know what I mean? And not as artists, like as people, you know, because I don't move around people that I don't really fuck with like that. So they're just good people. I mean, that's how it really started. It's just me, like, you know, my story, we can get into it and it's deeper and it connects to this, obviously. But I just had this passion, you know what I mean? I always want to get people together to do some you know, something that's bigger than just like the individual.
Yo, it's change what you want or is it small talk? Oligarch, 4 9 sons, Maya Khan plus 4 brothers, 1 conscience. Cold as Bobby Mercer, fighting Victor for the projects.
A cold as Bobby Fischer, claiming Victor with a pawn in chest. I'm calm through stress, but also eager to bomb the set. Our squad is next,
so guard your neck. You harbor threats, we turn the thought into a lawless wreck. You see the light like it's common sense.
find it forever in the bonds we bless.
He's so bad. He's like 70.
Kaynen, K-A-Y-N-E-N, but I spell it K', K separating the N-N, N-E-N, and some people call me K apostrophe. And right now we're in Shore 5 Studios in Lowell, Massachusetts. And we're finishing up some of the mixing sessions on Scr Capital Volume 1.
And, you know, I've met a lot of people. I've tried to have these conversations and build with a lot of people, and these are the people that made the most sense, you know what I mean? So that's pretty much the conception of it, how it came about, you know. Just me just seeing something special in everybody, you know what I mean? And putting myself aside to make sure that I can get everybody on the same page.
But I think it was last summer that we decided to call it SCR, Scr Capital Recordings. And it's more like, you know, it's just something that formed naturally and that we all kind of share the same passion and energy for, so it just kind of meshed together and worked.
So Scr Capital, the name, just was a joke. You know what I mean? Like Scr Capital, me and Gianna, my first project that I created was with him. He produced all the beats. And Scr Capital, he was like, yo, he just said it one day. We was in the kitchen talking and he just said it, Scr Capital. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna name the project Live from Scr Capital. Like, it just sounds like something presidential, something like important.
That's kind of what brought us all together, was that apartment.
You know, we went through a lot of things as a group. You know, we were trying to build other situations and didn't work out. So we was like, you know what? Like, me and Kane had this conversation one day, and we was like, yo, we should just call the whole thing Scr Capital, because that's where we live. And like, what that means to me is just like, this is where we build the relationship. You know what I mean? Like, as people, we got to know each other. We got through mad ups and downs, arguments. Like, we went through it all. Like, we went through it all.
You know, we're all moving on the same sound. We're all moving with the same message, the same mentality.
To me, it's like, yo, like, we built something so dope from that, and we took the time to do this. Like, you know, I slept on Kanan's floor for like 2 months before we moved in here, because I was like, you know what, we're going to make a move together, and we're going to make music.
And when I came into this situation, I had to learn how to, like, let the reins down. You know, with so many other leaders here, you know, this is the first group I worked in where, you know, almost every single one of us make beats.
So we came here, and like, that's what it means to me. Like, we can leave this house, but Scr Capital is going to go anywhere that we go, anything that we touch.
And all of us are creatives, and amazing creatives, and amazing rappers with different styles. So
everything we do is organic, and like, that's the reason why I fuck with them, man.
After with this type of shit, you have to let someone record their spots, and then you have to like redo them once everyone does their shit, so you can just kind of come in your space and feel like you're doing a show.
Yeah, sure.
Sometimes I almost wish I had like a performance mic that sounded as good as that did, that someone could hold.
Yeah.
'Cause I think that would sometimes help people.
That'd be
in certain-
wild, so
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
especially with rap.
wild.
Be a live fucking
With the rappity rap, you know?
rap-tastic.
They hot breath on this.
Half of them untarnished, covered in gray soil. Like when they cook crack, but don't wait till the pot boil. Blood royal like some custom linen. They much sinning. I'm a tool from my soul, now I'm accustomed to winning. Stuck in the spirit, you never get possessed by the rhyme. If you win it, say it with me, we were destined to shine. Blind man, see me rapping, said my presence divine. Laughing, said, yo, you ahead of your time. I swallowed my pride and said my whole story wasn't all glory. Asked me how I made it happen, I said heaven's design. It's like that. So I would say I was born and raised in North Philadelphia, 100%, Kensington area. But I spent a lot of time in my life out here, you know, since a buck. Ironically, my apartment right now on Stan Street is 2 blocks away, Everard Street, the block that when I was a 6-7-year-old boy, I would take care of my little sister. So like I've always been between Worcester and Philly since a young kid. Like Oxford Street, I lived on Oxford Street with my grandma at one point. But I was always, you know, in North Philly from the age of birth to 17. Yeah, I was given an opportunity to come to school out here.
My name is Danny, known as the Phantom, Danny Phantom. 27 years old, born and raised in Worcester.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in Worcester, Massachusetts, the greatest city in the fucking world, right? I grew up in housing projects, Great Brook Valley, and I lived there from when I was 4 to 15. So majority of my childhood was there, you know. So that living there was it's completely different from anywhere in Worcester. Like as a kid, I didn't even know Worcester beyond those bricks, you know what I'm saying? Because we had everything there. There's fucking pharmacies, physicians, grocery stores. You know what I'm saying? Like the daycares, everything's there. Everything's there. People even work. People live there, work there. So it was just mad Puerto Ricans. That's like the most of the population. It's like straight from Puerto Rico, and obviously Puerto Ricans have been here for a while, and like black people, and like minimal white and Asians, like you know. So it's like I grew up in a crazy world, crazy like in my head as a kid. You know what I mean? Like everything I was hearing on records is pretty much what I was seeing. You know what I mean? Like you see the housing bricks and the poverty and the drugs and the cops in and out, and like it was a point where people won't even come in the valley. You know what I mean? Like in the early '90s when I was a kid.
So Worcester is known as the heart of the Commonwealth, the heart of Massachusetts. It's pretty much right in the middle of Massachusetts, so it's a crossroads for a lot of states. There's a lot that goes on into Worcester, and there's a lot of different people and cultures that go into Worcester, so it's kind of a melting pot of sorts. You'll find, hella nationalities, bunch of languages. I was recently at like a community event, and they said something crazy, like there was like I don't know the specific number, but it was like over like 40 or 50 languages spoken in Worcester. So Worcester's kind of like a melting pot of like New England, really, because you got people from New York, you got people in Western Mass that are more like laid back, chill, like farmer vibes. But Worcester's kind of got a little bit of everything, and we have a lot of really good food.
So I went to Kensington High School. So I went to Kensington High School. Shout out Kensington High School, man. So, I love UPCS, but sometimes I always wish I graduated in Kensington just to say I graduated in Kensington. But in Kensington, we had an English course, and I had a teacher, Mr. Bloom, Gregory Bloom. Shout out to him. And he took a interest to me as a young student, as a writer, and as an intellectual, and he was just like very fascinated in my story and where I was from and how I talk about it, and he was just like trying to get me out of there. I was supposed to graduate school a year early and go to Lockhaven, but I bombed my SAT math, so they basically he was like, look man, I can't do it. I don't want to send you out there butt naked, basically, like you're not good at math. Just, send you to Lock, you're gonna get chewed up in college. So he's like, do another year, and then I was like, all right, cool. And he was like, but you got, family anywhere? And I was like, yeah. Like I said, I was always back and forth in Worcester because my dad was out here. He got, he was stuck out here for a bit. And so through that, I have a baby sister. So Ari, I love you. And then, my stepmom Cindy, who took me in. My other sister Jada. And basically I stayed with them, but he asked, and it's like some spontaneous miracle stuff, like, yeah, you know anybody? And I was like, yeah, I got stepmom in Mass. He was like, what part? And I was like, Worcester. And when he said that, his eyes like lit up, like movie shit. Like his eyes just lit up. He was like, yeah, I know this guy. His name is Richie Hall. He's a principal. He's a really good dude. He runs a great school. It's like top in the nation, UPCS, blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, whatever. I'm out to my mom. She like, nope, you're not leaving. You know what I mean? I'm like probably like 16 at the time, I'd be 17. That's when I was really taking off on my rap, with the cane and stuff. And yeah, man, it just from there, I convinced her, it was a better choice for me in life. So I ended up moving out here, living with my stepmom. I used to sleep in the walk-in closet like Harry Potter. You know what I mean? I used to just, make it happen, man, and make music, figuring out the whole caning thing. And Worcester's, I would say, like a huge part of my identity. It's like the duality, you know what I mean? I get a lot of peace out here. So it's tight. So that's basically how I got out here. I left and came back a couple times, but I felt like, there was something for me to accomplish out here,
So being raised in Worcester, we came up, when I was younger, we were less wealthy than, speaking as far as my immediate family, mom, dad, brother, we were less wealthy than we are now as a collective. So we used to live, my earliest memory actually was living in Albany. We lived in Albany for a little bit when I was younger, in a really, really big house, and then we moved over here to Worcester, or back to Worcester, I guess. And we lived in the first apartment I remember from Worcester was a 2-bedroom basement floor apartment off Franklin Street. So growing up, I don't want to say we were poor, you know what I'm saying, but it wasn't a luxurious lifestyle, so I was very humble.
Like my family, they're not like they are my family, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's dope. That's pretty much it, you know.
I always say the joke like I rap because they want to let me sing, you know what I mean? But hip hop has been, it grew into a religion for me. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you learn about it, when you learn about it something, and it becomes everything. It becomes like cultish. You know what I mean?
Like for example, like I would say like 6 months before I even moved into this house, like me and Danny Phantom was like, what I would say is like New Element was the reason I met Danny Phantom. You know what I mean? I just to break down a little bit. New Element was the reason I met Danny Phantom because the second show I ever did was with New Element because that's the first person in the city that kind of like caught my eye. Like, oh, he kind of listens to similar music, kind of like similar taste. So that's why I started fucking with him. He made beats. He was grinding. He was doing mad shows. You know, he put out his first project out of high school. Like, you know, he was doing a lot of amazing things. So I was like, you know, it was natural for me to just give that respect, and he gave it right back. So I did a show with New Element. From there, Danny Phantom was there. He did a show that same night, and we just had a mutual respect as artists, but we didn't know each other yet. Then, like a couple months down the line, you know what I mean? I hit him up and shit. You know what I mean? We smoked a little bit and shit, and you know, after that day, we were just inseparable. You know what I mean? We were together every day after that for like 6-7 months. You know what I mean? Every day.
Hell yeah.
So like that's how I met Danny, and then through New Element, that's how I met Kanan as well. Obviously I was building with New that time, and New was building with everybody in the city. Everybody know who he is. Everybody's worked with him, and he was like, I met New, Neff through New, and Neff is like Kanan's brother from Philly, and he fucked with me off the rip. So he's like, yeah, you have to meet Kanan. Like the both of them was like, yo, you have to meet Kanan. You have to meet Kanan. So they were adamant about it, and I just went to the spot on Clap Street. I met Kanan. And like I said on the intro, how when I first walked in the room, and like I could read our spirits and energies, but when I read his, it was just like brighter. It was way brighter than everybody in the room. So I already knew that he's different. You know what I mean? Just off energy. And then when I sat down, had a conversation, he was like, yo, you know what's crazy, bro? Like I had a dream that me and you were touring, and I never met this kid in my life. You know what I'm saying? So he was like, yeah, I saw some shit. And for some reason, I had a dream like New Zealand, like touring, doing mad shows all overseas. And I was like, yeah, like you're official. That's what you gotta tell me is I'm a dreamer, like Pisces shit. I'm a dreamer. I see my dreams are what created all this shit. You know what I'm saying? For me, so it's like, you know, once he said that, it's like boom. He went back and forth from Philly and we're going through a life and shit. And I always reached out to him. I was always consistent in reaching out to him. Always. I try to make sure that Danny got familiar with him. You know what I mean? To the point where they can reach out to each other. And then that's how I met Kanan. So it's like those two were through New. And then Gianno, we went to middle school together, like, you know, and then in high school we got close. You know, we both quit the football team just to skip. We quit football together just to smoke and hang out and listen to music. He's the first person I ever recorded with Cam, you know what I mean? Cam 22 from the football team, Billy J. And that's history, you know what I mean? Like me and Gianno would like ride around the whole city smoking and listening to music and I would just freestyle nonstop, and you know, so that's my relationship with him. So it was easy for me to bring on my board and do my first project with him and all that just because of the history, you know what I mean? So that's how this shit came about for me, how I met them, and you know, New Element playing an essential role in that.
And so I would say, you know, being from Philly, you know, having young parents, and my mom, she lived in New York at a certain point. She danced house music, Jungle Brothers, like, you know, freestyle, the whole shebang bang. So growing up, it was around in the early stages. You know, Big Daddy Kane, they loved all that. You know, they already had stories as a youth. So I was already taking in that sound.
I guess hip hop was brought into my life. I mean, probably since as soon as I was born. But the earliest memories I have of hip hop are my uncle DJing at parties, my older cousin DJing at parties, like family get-togethers and stuff, and then morning rides to school and shit, playing Jam 94.5 and listening to the Jam Scam from Baltazar and Pebbles. So those are some of my earliest memories of hip hop. Besides, you know, collecting. Not me collecting because I was too young, not too young, but I just wasn't into hip hop as much as some of my older cousins who were collecting CDs and cassettes and kind of just playing it. So it was really the first genre of music that I was introduced to was hip hop.
So the project, I'm not sure what we're gonna call it yet. You know what I mean? It's still up in the air. But it has production by Kanan. Kanan made most of the beats on the project. You know, it's only right. He took the charge and put all the beats together and shit. So, you know, we let him take control of that. And we had some beats by Giano also on the project. My uncle Big S had the joint on there. DNA Beats has the joint, the solo joint that I did on there. DJ Eve Rex is doing the cuts and scratching on it from New York. DNA's from Chicago. You know, much love to them for showing me love. The only reason I'm working with them is because they showing me love on the stream. So, got it reflected back, you know, and they're great people, doing professionals. So, Brennan Brady from Surefire, amazing engineer, amazing person. You know, we've been blessed to be able to work with him. So he's engineering the whole project, mixing, mastering, recording. I think they're out in Lowell, I believe. I mean, I'll be spaced out, but I think they're in Lowell. So yeah, those are like and how can I forget? Tati Carrion, she's amazing singer, local singer. She's great voice and has a project out as well. So definitely check her shit out. But that's like the main components in the creation of the project.
It was like my sophomore or junior year in high school, which was like 2008, 2007, 2008, and it was really just from a place of fun and a place of like just kind of being a kid and rapping about our lives. I started rapping with my two cousins and our mutual friend Sean Brooks, and we really just rapped about what we were into, which at the time was video games, comic books, fictional characters, that sort of thing. So we really just latched on to those things, those nostalgic feelings that we had, and we made songs about them. And we didn't go into it thinking like it was gonna become this thing. But as we started rapping more and more and doing shows and meeting people, we realized, yo, this is dope, you know what I mean? There's people that connect with us, there's people that can respect us for what we do and the message we're singing and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's kind of when I started to pursue it. I would say I started pursuing it more seriously in the last like 5 years, because back then I would consider it more like a hobby. But as of recently, it's become more of like a craft, something that I'm trying to fine tune and hone and like whittle down to this masterpiece of art. And SCR, I honestly couldn't even tell you when it first formed, but I feel like it was as soon as Giano, Kanan, and Jafet all moved in together, was kind of like the conception of what we're calling SCR now. Because me and Jafet had met years ago and just kind of created this, or formed this bond, and he introduced me to Kanan, and since the moment I met Kanan, we just kind of clicked, and it was like the Three Musketeers is what I would call us. And then I met Giano, also through Jafet, maybe a little bit before they moved in together, or when they moved in together, and we just kind of started vibing with each other and working, like, just working together, you know what I mean? And I couldn't even tell you the conception of SCR or how it began, but it was just kind of like this natural thing that wasn't forced or anything.
Danny put out like three or four projects. Kanan's put out projects. I know Giano's put out beat tapes. I put out beat tapes too, but I don't really count those as like my project. So yeah, this will be my first project. I already have one project done in the stash. I'm working on another one. So just trying to like keep working and keep shit in the raps. And the reason it is my first project is I've taken the time to really try to polish and perfect and work on my shit. And realistically, you know, I've been through a lot of ups and downs as an artist. So it's like, it hasn't been the easiest path for me, you know what I mean? And I guess that's why it keeps my passion burning, you know what I mean?
But, you know, in my own instance, you know, Chubby Life was something of a passion project, you know what I mean? And it was something that, you know,
I always knew that it could be something more, and it always, you know, and it will be something that me and Butter will always have to, you know, keep. And everyone around us, I still love. You see me, you chubby like, yo, I'm gonna give you love the same way. You know what I mean? Staying Capital for me is the growing point for me, where I really turned into the full artist that I was able to be, and be in an environment and in a setting where all, not just the creativity and synergy is matching 100%. You know, we're all moving on the same sound. We're all moving with the same message, the same mentality, and it's a little bit more easier to handle than a chubby life when you have multiple personalities, multiple ideas, multiple, you know, levels and energetics and ideas. This is more like we all different types of creators, but we all have one type of mission. One mission is one. You know what I mean? So that's, I think, the big part. And Chubby Life basically set my ideas and my platforms, but also I shattered and grew off of those things, working with Stan heavily. I mean, those are my brothers, just as Chubby Life are my brothers. You know what I mean?
So for me, it started like 98, 99. My uncle came from Puerto Rico, like, and the reason why I start there is because, like, I was around hip hop before that, and I was a part of the culture before that. We were breakdancing on the block as kids. You know, I remember listening to all these songs in the radio and stuff, and so we were partaking in the culture. But when he came from Puerto Rico, he was able to help me pay attention to detail. You know what I mean? Like, yo, listen to what the person's actually saying. You know what I mean? Like I started admiring other things about it, and I was like, around that time, I was like 7 years old. You know, so one day my sister passed away. You know, rest in peace. And I was young, but like one of the first songs that like I heard at that time was "Quiet Storm" by Mobb Deep, and how I felt on that beat, how that beat felt, and how Prodigy voice sounded on it. It just felt like what I was going through at a young age. So even though I didn't understand all the words and shit, it was still like resonating. And I think that's what made me fall in love with hip hop, is that song and like Common Sense Delight. Those two songs is what really like did it for me, because the emotion, you know. As a kid, you really don't understand the words or the meaning, you know what I mean? But you could understand the feeling. So it was one of those things that I resonated with more than anything. And it's like I didn't have to share that admiration with anyone. It was something that it was for me that nobody could take from me, you know.
So on my end of the story, it all started with Christian Bell. Shout out Christian Bell. And he, one day when I first moved out here, he was just chilling. He was like, man, I know somebody who, you know, make perfect beats for you. At the time, I was like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Just because I misjudged the brother. And, you know, he's very into hardcore. He was definitely not, it wasn't in the hip hop lane or the spectrum. So I'm like, man, how would you know what I'm getting down on? But he was like, this is Cat. Brother named New Element, the New Element, of course, my brother, mentor. And he like, yeah, you know, you gotta check him out. Next day we met up. We met at Phil First crib on Richards. And we chilled there, we talked, chopped it up, blah, blah, blah. And I think within a couple of days later, he's like, yeah, man, you got me sleep with him. And boom, boom, I'm at sleep with him. And then it was just like, we got the secret, the weapon that nobody know about, like, you know what I mean? And it was Jafet, you know, and the first time I seen him, it came through Clap, you know, on just, you know, regular Clap Street shenanigan. And, you know, we talked, we chatted. He knew Butter before he knew me. And, you know, they chatted. And then, you know, I would say when I moved back on my own, later on, I say like 20 or something like that, when I was doing the catering work, shit like that. He you know, we met up one day. He was trying to get me in a group then, you know what I mean? And it was him and a couple more MCs. And, you know, one day we met up on the corner of a community, on the corner. We literally just spitting a cipher to the night, you know what I mean? Like, real hip-hop shit. And I was just like, yeah, this cat's for real, And, you know, I had visions and dreams, and still do, and these things are, you know, fulfilling themselves. And, you know, me and Jafet continuing on into doing that. And when I made the decision to move back, a lot of that rested on that. You know what I mean? I'm like, man, like this is the wave of what I think is happening right now. You know, the underground wave of movement, a real underground hip hop resurgence of lyrics, resurgence of dope beats, resurgence of, you know, individuality, originality, and real messages. And you know, once I moved down here, we ended up linking. You know, just continue to build the foundation. It was, you know, it was a real build, like, you know, with the break, with the build, with the break, with the build, like, you know, one of the strong ones. And early on, he like, yeah, man, you know, when I first moved back, him and Fanny was like package, you know, they were, you know, always together, and it was one of those things where I got accustomed to being around Danny really fast, you know what I mean? And if you know Danny, you already know, man, that man aura is just, you know, it's just bright, super bright, you know, super good energy. I was just like, fuck, this guy's the nicest man in the world, one of the funniest dudes I know, the greatest man I know at this point. And yeah, we linked up early, and it would just be us three. And I was seeing the build, you know, like all the people I mentioned, they all in different places, Higgins, other spot, you know. And then we made the decision, you know, the first seclusion joint. You know, every single spot we was at, you know. And then we made the decision we was gonna take a trip and shit like that. And that's when I was introduced to G. I met G on a trip to Six Flags. And it was just, that was the solid, like, from the first 5 minutes of G, I'm like, this shit, it's my man, he such a character, I'm always into that type of shit. And, you know, it just became, us, you know, us four, it was pretty solid, us understanding what to do from there. And we were supposed to take a trip to Europe and get it popping, and it was just like, man, how about we take this money, and, you know, build us a real crib, build us a studio, build us a real foundation, and that, you know, literally was staying capital, you know, you know what I mean? And that shit's been, you know, exactly what we wanted since.
When I first met King, saw the aura of a god. Proceeded to share this vision of his touring out abroad. Word is born. We fan him the second time I performed. The respect was mutual. Nowadays, I love is strong. Gianna was
I want to be like a little bit more on the high end. I feel like it's a little too muddy. Like,
it took years of preparation, traded tears for dedication. While they acting like it happened overnight, though we've been patient. When I first met King, saw the aura of a god. Proceeded to share this vision of his touring out abroad. Word is born. We fan him the second time I performed. The respect was mutual. Nowadays, I love is strong. Gianna was the
so I've been freestyling ever since. I was like 7, 8, 9, 10, freestyling on the block against older dudes, and you know, it became like a circus show for me. Like being a young kid living in projects, and it's like I didn't like it because I was like getting told what to do all the time and shit. So I stopped rapping in front of people. When people would ask me about rap, I'd be like, nah. I was lying, obviously, because I had notebooks, and even at that age, I was writing. And you know, I always freestyled myself, but it was more like a relief. Like I did it when I felt a certain way, or like, you know, it wasn't like, I want to be a rapper. It was just like, this is a spiritual thing, you know what I mean? Yeah, it was like, I would get goosebumps as a kid freestyling, like, and I was always talking to that second voice in your head. You know what I mean? That's who I was always freestyling to.
Growing up was kind of like our parents teaching us to be, you know, to be gentlemen, regardless of any situation, and how to carry ourselves as good, upstanding Puerto Rican men.
I do feel like this is my life and my purpose, you know what I mean? Not just like music and art, but like what I'm gonna do with it, you know, so.
Because the first, like, I want to say the first month or two since I moved out of my dad's house, like for the first solid month, I was sleeping on their couch, just like on some depression type shit. Like I didn't even sleep in my apartment. I just slept on their couch, and it kind of made us all a little closer too. You know what I mean? Just being able to wake up and them all being there, whether somebody's going to work or not, or somebody's chilling, somebody sparks up and they wake up, or I'm rolling up, or playing video games together, that sort of thing.
So it's like that's where I disconnected from society. And it was easy because, like I said, you don't have to be with anyone to listen to music or to see videos on TV and shit. You don't have, you know what I mean? The only people I would rap in front of like my brothers and shit. And even them, eventually, I was like, I don't even want to rap in front of y'all. I never even rapped in front of my uncle until I was like 18, 19. And I've been rapping since I was like 7. So that just goes to show like how much I understood that people would try to like take something that's truly yours. And I understood not to let anyone take that from me, and to let the world have it when I'm ready to give it to them.
You know, for me, I think mediums are boxes. You know what I mean? When you look at some of the greatest artists of all time, they were not bound by medium. You know what I mean? They painted, they sculpted, they sang, they played instruments, they took pictures. You know, for me, I've grown to a point now where I realize, you know, that's why sometimes the term rapper could itch me a little bit because, you know, I produce, you know, I play around with little engineering here, you know, I teach. And then I do all types of visual art, you know what I mean, since young, and I enjoy it, you know, it's a passion thing. And I think us as rappers, we get put in a box early. You know, once you step into the realm of rap, you know, you gotta fight to prove artistry. You gotta really be like, you gotta do so much to prove that you're an artist. And even when you get to those levels, you know, you could get to a collegiate level. You know what I mean? You could get to levels where you getting paid by universities and you speaking with doctors of research who studied at Harvard and taught at Cambridge. And these are the people you day to day with every day. And you still, you know, to some, and some people in the sphere, you know, you're still only viewed as a rapper. You know what I mean? And it's a tough thing when you really care about the visibility of young colored people, black people, Latino people, and young hip-hop artists' visibility, especially ones who carry a real message. So it's hard because I think the only way we could give our message out is through medium, and all mediums. Like, don't, you know what I mean? Don't, you know what I mean? Fuck that, every single thing. If you could paint, you know what I mean? If you could draw, you know, do that shit. I'm not really into the whole separation of mediums and things like that. I prefer to be called an artist.
As a hip-hop artist, you're not just a rapper. You don't just rap. You might paint, you might direct, you might do visuals, you know what I mean? But it always has a message.
If you had the knowledge, you would know.
I heard he's been like, yo, if I don't make it in 3 years, I'm done. Never makes it, period.
Yeah.
It's a mental commitment you have to make to do this
They're
shit.
putting a wall on themselves.
And I had the one of the executives from TuneCore here the other day, right? And they're signing a lot of more people to TuneCore and shit like that, like, because TuneCore has a label, right? And they like want straight like urban acts is what they say. You know? It's like their way of saying they want black acts. You know what I mean? It's like the fucking secret way of saying it. But they want more and more of that. But dude, he's showing me numbers. Yo, there are so many kids, so many musicians that make like 150 grand off of sales that you could fucking walk right into them in a bar and you had no clue.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of people.
So there's a lot of ways to make like happiness and success. You know what I mean?
Without
like,
being fucking fake.
Yeah, but it's just a commitment. It's a mental commitment. I fully believe that. Like,
You know what I mean? So it's like dealing with that, I always dealt with the like expectations. Like my brother's like, you're the one that's gonna take us out the hood. You're the ones, you know what I mean? Like shit like that, and like the later on as an adult, like the disappointment from people. You know what I mean? That you haven't done all this shit yet when you've been had the talent in their eyes, you know. So it's just like the reason why it's my first project is I took the time to grow. And what's crazy, I know this is crazy, right? I was like 20 years old, fresh out of high school, and I had this accident where I like fainted and passed out. But I was sitting like on a 10-foot ledge, a cement ledge, and I fainted and fell face forward and like split my whole chin open, like I busted my whole mouth, my jaw's dislocated, and I lost like 3 teeth in the front, and then my gum too, like they had to operate my gums and stuff. So like I wear the gold in my mouth because I'm missing the teeth, you know what I'm saying? So like I had to teach myself how to rap for like 3 years. But it's like, you know what I mean? I really taught myself how to rap all over again when that shit happened, bro. And like that shit was crazy for me. Like it wasn't painful in the sense of going through it. It was more like, damn, I know what I could be doing at the time, but it's like I just took it like a champion, like, you know, and I'm proud of myself to be able to do the things I do nowadays, considering where I was, you know what I mean? So
What it means is just like 4 grown men coming together for you know, a common cause, a common purpose, more than just music, but to like, you know, shift the culture and kind of leave an imprint, so to speak.
you know what I'm saying? They be engineering shit and they don't even know how intelligent, you know what I mean, they are, because like, man, we go to school and you know what I mean, but how as dumb because of the curriculum, you know what I mean, and the way they teach. So it's like, you know, we dealt with a lot of that shit. You know, when we would go to schools and stuff, the discrimination of being a little kid from the valley, and like how that doesn't allow you to flourish in those pockets, you know. So like hip hop is where I got most of my education.
all right, bro,
I think
I
you did
cleaned
good,
it up a little bit. I kind of like took some breaths out and shit, like just like lip smacking or anything.
Yeah,
that I
yeah,
heard
for
that
sure.
I felt like was too much. I sidechain the kick in the drum a little bit more. I mean, the kick in the snare a little bit more. I make the snare come through a little bit thicker. And then like, yo, so you know the second sample, who you made the beat?
I did.
You made the beat? Alright, so you know the second sample you had, like the lower one?
Yeah.
I put it on this pan effect so it goes from like ear to ear.
Fine.
So it's gonna be more of one thing that you hear or something like the third time you listen to it or something like that.
I like that.
Yeah.
Because if it stays in one lane, I feel like it conflicts too much, but I want to like be something where someone's like, did I hear that?
I was born '92. Yeah, people ain't like it. Just had a bad reputation, but like for me living as a kid, that shit was like the best place in the world, like Chuck E. Cheese. You know what I'm saying? You know, we made something out of nothing every single day.
I think it's the amount of commitment and like, you know, taking it seriously, taking it like actually serious. Because making music itself is hard. Like writing a song is hard. Putting your thoughts into words and your feelings into words and making sure that it flows and it rhymes and it doesn't sound forced or fake. That's all hard work.
Yeah, it let it flourish. Because I was around all creative people. Like, even if you're not artists, you're creative from the project. Because, you know, you had nothing.
How it's always like this. Remember when I'm lifeless, soaking in the soil. And now you spoil me with love. But when I was just a boy, y'all was toying with my trust. I heard the voices from above, but the noise was out of touch. They told me I had to adjust, cause they wasn't asking much. I told them I am not a crutch. When their work is not enough, I will crack this.
I've owned this studio for like over 15 years now. Or I'm at my 15th year right now, and I've been doing it for like 17 years. About.
And literature and English and, you know, just using words and understanding shit, I got that from being in trouble in school so I wouldn't get recess. So they would make me write the dictionary out and shit. So that's how I learned words between that and music, you know. I had a lot of time alone. I grew up like in solitude.
This dude got the same hair issue as I do. Look, not dead ass. Like if you look at the back of his head, he's losing it.
Oh, he's fucked, yeah.
He's losing it. I got the same issue.
I'm a bald man, so like, yo, I call out everyone. I'll be like, yo, you going? You joining the club? Like, yo, I'll get people mad early.
Yeah, dog.
Yo, I'm not mad aggravated, like, cause you'll see like
That
stars
shit
like getting the shit all fixed up, and I'm like,
Yeah.
nah, bro, like do the Jordan. You know what I mean? Like the best basketball player ever to live was bald.
You
Fuck
gotta
that.
shave this shit.
The second best
I can't
basketball
do
player,
it, bro.
bald. And now he got like weird patches and shit. LeBron,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
LeBron,
yeah.
you bald.
Nah,
You know what I
LeBron
mean?
shit's fucked. First time I noticed my shit was going bald, I thought my mom fucked my hair up. Like I thought she hit like a clip out the back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nah, that's just the way I came out the shower. The water had that shit parted. I'm like, shit. I was like, shit.
Like Jordan Lucas got his hair
Yeah.
fixed.
Oh, yeah.
Yo, but the ill shit, right? Like I got the horns and shit. So like my shit just kept going, like the Al Bundy, like it just kept going back. I didn't get the ball. Like yo,
dad
I still,
got that
yo, the
shit.
back of my head's beautiful. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just this is getting
yeah.
weird. You know what I mean?
Nah,
So I got to the point where I was like, fuck
That
that,
shit
and
is
I saved
depressing.
it. Yo, and I always joke around with people because I'm like, yo, why hasn't like men figured out a way to label this a disease? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So that,
for
like,
real.
that, like it's like, yo, I got a disease. You know what I mean? Like extra healthcare and shit like that. Because if women lose their hair, it's like, oh, I got this disease. all this
Yeah,
shit.
so-
Men lose their hair, like, nah, that's just normal.
Yeah.
Like go fuck yourself.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love my hair.
They definitely.
Because, like, I wouldn't be able, I had two older brothers and an older stepbrother. They were all older, so it's like, for me to chill with them, I had to go through the ringer, you know? So, like, yo, I'd rather be alone. There's only, like, 2 controllers on game systems, you know? So it's like, I'm the odd one out. So it's like, yo. So the music really, shaped me, and then, you know, through good times and bad, you know what I mean?
As a hobby, it's like I could write about anything, you know what I mean? But when it comes to working on your craft and working on something that means something, it's like you're trying to get somebody to feel this certain feeling. You're trying to invoke this certain emotion and doing it in an honest way so that people can kind of see past the song and see your perspective and kind of get to know you on a certain level through your music.
Oh yeah, man. You know what I mean? It's like I'm blessed. You know what I mean? I'm one of those people like I see things through. Like so, I'm like real stubborn. It may take me fucking forever, but I'll see it through. You know? I don't like to give up on shit.
bro.
Yeah.
You gotta be like that.
Yeah, consistency is what leads to success, in my opinion.
Yeah, so it's like that's where the connection to hip hop is so natural for me, and like I could freestyle shit like it was written. You know what I mean? People don't be believing that shit. I don't freestyle as much as I used to now because I'm more into songwriting, but you know, it's just that passion, like that natural connection. You know, I never felt like I was trying to be something. It was more like a reflection of my environment. You know.
It's different than anything I've ever done when it comes to music. You know what I mean? It just feels natural. You know, like writing the song that we just finished mastering, Rich Man, Poor Man with Kanan. I literally just hit him up, was like, yo, you want to write that song? Went to his crib, walked up in his room, he played the beat, and within 30, 40 minutes, we wrote the whole song. We came up with the concept, we wrote the song, we spit it to each other. We were like, yeah, this is dope. Like, it just is so much more natural than anything I've ever done besides, you know, solo projects, because when I'm writing my own music, I'm tapping into myself. So it's like, that's sort of easy for me, but when it comes to collaborating with people, it's not always a simple process, and it's not always like smooth sailing. But with these dudes, man, it's like we kind of formed this friendship before we ever made music together, so it just makes it that much easier to go into a songwriting process or a team meeting and kind of bounce ideas off each other without being offended or feeling like somebody's you know, being spiteful or whatever, you know what I mean? Because we all know each other on a certain wavelength. It's like we know how to interact with each other, so it's never like bumping heads. And when it is bumping heads, we're grown-ass men about it, you know, we hash it out, we get past it, and then we move on to whatever we're working on. But yeah, man, it's like nothing I've ever done or nothing I've ever really been a part of at all. Never mind music, like in life, you know what I mean? Because it really is, it's become like a brotherhood.
Support is a feasible goal, but love shows the test of what we can accept. I cry because the whole the streets can put on someone's head. We just want to.
So the hi-hat, I'm going to loop because for some reason it progressively gets lower and lower. Okay. So like you can kind of see it, right? Like this is the hi-hat, the blue one. I'll kind of maximize the file so you can like see what I'm talking about. But see, it kind of like starts hot here, and then as we get to the end, it just keeps getting lower and lower. So
no, I think on this beat, I don't know about y'all, but I would say that the kick and snare a little bit louder.
Yeah. The kick and snare too loud?
No, a little bit louder.
Oh, you want them louder?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just like a little bit.
Okay.
And I trust you when it comes to that. Yeah, you can loop it through these speakers. Hear that? Yeah, that's under there. That's why when they cut the beat out, that's the like.
That's what she started with.
The movement that we're making as SCR was like attempted years ago before I was introduced to Giano, and I think I knew Kay, but not as well. But long story short, Jafet had kind of organized this big meeting of like-minded MCs and producers in greater Worcester area, and we invited them all to our spot that we had at Higgins Armory. We had a little like, I guess you would call it just like a creative office space, and he invited them all there, and we kind of like shot the idea of making a super group, so we called it, because if you think about it, SCR really is a super group. We got 3 producers and 4 MCs, and just a whole lot of creative energy. So he kind of brought this idea of a super group to this meeting that we had with all these people, and that was kind of like, I would say that was the first stone that led to SCR, because it was like, it was like a wake up moment, like, yo, we can actually do this shit. Like none of those people that were there, I don't know if Kanan was there, to be honest, but I don't think any of those people that were there are still rocking with us now. But it was kind of like it was like the Hunger Games type shit, where it was a process of elimination, like seeing who was as passionate and who had the mind for the shit, who had the hunger for the shit, and who did we mesh with on that same level. That was kind of like the first step to getting to where we are now.
Bro,
Yeah.
I feel like a track's overdoing the vocals, and I'm like, man, I can't get the vocals to like cut through the track just because the track is so big.
Yeah.
I'll sidechain it so that the vocals break through the beat every time.
Approaching the bloom, change the world before we all see a tune. Not a day goes by and we ain't sharpening tools. A band of brothers and our purpose is true. If you're conflicted and this verse is for you, diamond in the rough and old brown shoes. In the dark at 4 a.m. like there ain't nothing to prove. ¿Qué está pasando? En el mundo que vivemos, somos hombres que construimos para llegar al cielo. Y lejos, lejos, el tiempo de paz and prosperity. So we gon' fight for what is right with all strength and sincerity is phantom. It's a seat, see every man is a chief. They don't got the flame like us, man. They got the vision. That's real, bro. You know it's real. Everybody wanna rap, but nobody got the vision.
Rip karma on the case, so you gotta figure it out.
It's like super low.
I like
don't
that.
I don't want it to be like over
No,
props, you know
I
what I
love
mean?
it.
But I feel like
I
the little
peeped it.
like the tickle of the ear, like
Yeah.
you may not hear it the first time you listen to the song, and then the second time you're like, oh shit, it's like a tiny little. It's like I want to look back at like I want to look back at like hey,
You got the best hair in the school.
I like these blonde locks and shit. I'm like, what happened? Like my father warned me too. Like, yo, you gonna lose that.
Yeah,
like,
shit catches up.
you're gone one day.
That shit catches up.
I used to call him like my dad's ball. He'd be like Maldigo, and he's like, keep making those jokes.
Oh, bro, I used to make fun of so many people. Now don't say shit.
Yo, because I
Don't say shit now.
I wear a hat so much, right? I'm with my wife's and her friend's kids the other day, and they called me Uncle Brady or Uncle Brennan, my real name, and they look at me and they're like, how'd you lose your hair? What happened to your hair? And I was like, yo, shut the fuck up, little bastard. I was like, hope you go bald one day, you little fuck.
I didn't choose this.
Yeah, I didn't choose this life. I got a disease. See, but if they label a disease, that'd be good. You know what I mean? I'd be getting like extra.
You know they know how to fix it
people
too,
would feel
bro.
bad for me and shit. And be like, yo, you got the bald disease, bro.
Yo, real shit.
You got the ball, dude.
I used that. I tried Rogaine before. That shit was working, right? I had tried it, right? My mom's she's a barber.
Okay.
She mad obnoxious to my mom. Like, she don't give a fuck. Like, she'll just say it. She's like, oh my God, it's working. I'm like, yo, shut up. I'm like, yo, shut up. Everybody knows this shit. But I just stopped doing that shit. It was like $60 for like, it's mad expensive.
It's mad expensive.
I'm like, yo, you know what? I'm just gonna live
You get
with
like
it.
all those hair plugs and shit,
Yeah.
right? Yo, and I love to like ride dirt bikes and shit. I was like, dirt bike or hair?
Yeah, exactly.
Dirt bike.
Yeah,
I was
exactly.
like, fuck it, like I'm married.
I'm like, yo, I can't. Yeah, if you married, you good.
Yeah, I'm good.
That's why I'm stressing. I'm saying, I'm still single. I'm going.
Rhyme, you ain't rising, getting close to the tune. We swarm in the room like killer bees. Not a day goes by and we ain't sharpening tools. A band of brothers and our purpose is true. If you're conflicted and this verse is for you, diamond and
Legendary.
In 8th grade, I was voted best hair, and then I lost my hair in college.
Nah, I just want to say I appreciate you, bro, for being a part of it for real. So, because not a lot of people take the time to do this, and you know, until they see the fruits of the labor, they don't want to be a part of it and shit, you know.
So I kind of like opened up on the compression a little bit. So like I had you guys at like 4-1, and I kind of put you guys closer to 3-1 or whatever, and like just labeled off so it didn't sound so muffled, like you were kind of saying, like kind of had like that like stuffy feeling, like what the vocals weren't open up, like right, like so. We'll run that through the master, but as we run that, we'll just hop into the next one.
Cool.
Just.
Once we get everything done, we just, you know, obviously, you know, we want to get like acapellas to all the tracks and
Yeah, that would be the last
performance
thing.
tracks after everything's done. You know?
And the last thing, that way we have everything done, and then once you guys are done, the acapella and beat are kind of simple to do, and then the show set, you guys tell me what you want to leave in.
Right.
So it's like if you want all the vocals taken out.
Exactly.
But I would leave that, to the very end to make sure like everything's right, so that everything would be consistent, drop wise and shit like that. Yeah, that's just
standard shit.
Yeah, it's just like fucking muting a couple things, running the whole shit track, and then
We'll rerun it through like the master for all that shit.
You know, and the understanding, like, you know, we can give you both sides of the reflection, you know, the light and the darkness, you know, and that's hip hop, you know, where it's like a person that doesn't have that understanding, doesn't live that way, might give you something that's not hip hop, but it's like, you know, and unfortunately in the element that we live in, that's like what's prevalent. You know what I'm saying? Shit that doesn't have light in it, it's just all darkness. You know what I mean? So it's like I wouldn't consider that hip hop. You know, you gotta give it a complete understanding on both sides of the spectrum to be complete hip. You know what I mean? To me, and that's just like how I hold myself accountable. I don't even judge people on that scope. You know what I mean? It's just more about how because I have a responsibility to what it did to me. It was my father. You know, it saved my life. You know, it gave me direction, purpose. You know, and it's not in vain. You know, it's not just for me. It's for the people that really need it. You know what I mean? Like for what it did to me. So it's like, if that makes me a priest, then I guess. You know what I'm saying? When we in the church together, you know what I mean? Spreading the gospel and shit.
Thursday and Sunday. We just played one today. The undercover shit.
The undercover's like freestyle?
What's the song?
Yeah.
But I sent him that shit. That thing like, yo, I overlooked it. Send it.
First project as an artist in general, so it's like, you know, it just means a lot to me.
Stand Capital Volume 1 was our first debut album as a group, as an entity.
So I think the first time I ever met Jafet in person, if it wasn't the show in Southbridge that Kanan was talking about, then it was this time I was shooting a video for a single of mine called Bird's Eye View. And my cousin Andre, Dre from the Woo, shout out Dre from the Woo, he's killing it right now. He was shooting the video, and so what the plan was, New Element, who's the mutual friend, the glue to this whole fucking thing, he was tagging the back of my crib at the time, because it was like a big slab of concrete, so he was tagging it, and I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Jafet was there at the store, the craft store, when we were picking up the paint for it. And I think that's the first time I met him. But besides that, we met also at the show. We linked up just off of talking on Facebook, I believe. And we were just like, yo, you trying to play some ball? You trying to smoke? You know, built a friendship off that. And then he introduced me to Kay. He introduced me to a few people, you know, but he introduced me to Kay, and then we just started clicking up, you know what I mean? We started hanging out, and, you know, the rest is history, really.
It's a lot for me. It was a crazy journey, just everybody in the house and being a part of it. It feels good to get that off my back, off my chest, and to get to enjoy it.
I think one of the bigger ones for me was the first time ever seeing the names of our stuff on a streaming platform. Like, you know what I mean?
It was crazy, man. It was like, the first time it flashed up, I literally froze. I had my phone in my hand, and I was just, like, I looked at my phone, I looked at the billboard, I looked at my phone, I was just lost in the sauce completely. But, looking back on it, I think it, like, really, really hit me the morning after, because I was able to look back at all the footage and look back just at how close we were and how big this shit really was. And that was crazy, man. Like, it was just mind-blowing. And then also, like, the feedback from that, like, from my family, you know what I mean? Like, more than anybody, it was just crazy, man. It's like, it's something that you can't even imagine, you know what I mean?
It's just a process, you know. I always try to stay creative, you know, as much as possible, and I have several different projects with different themes and concepts and soundscapes. So it's always a constant action, having to juggle everything in my mind and try to keep things aligned.
Like going into work and seeing like the cooks at my job, like playing the album, people I never met before congratulating me on the album. People that like regulars at my bar, they'll see Facebook pictures. They're like, "Oh man, like can't wait! Like I heard your songs," or like, our old art teacher, Benatti, he hit me up and he was saying how he liked the music. So it was just like dope, you know what I mean? Like, people back from Philly, people like I saw another person's status and someone wrote like, "Yeah, I went to elementary school with that kid," and I didn't even know who he was. Yeah. Like those are like the things that when you've grown, like, and all of us have, we've been digging away for so long that when you get to see that your consistency is starting to build in its own story, like you're creating your own narrative in life. You know what I mean? Like you could be in your house like, I haven't did this for this long, but when you see something like that, you remember that you're always an artist and you're always looked at that way. And that was super. I mean, besides of course the going to Times Square and being mesmerized by the lights and seeing us pop up like heart drop every single time. Or, just of course the newspaper back to back, or even like when we started dropping videos, like when we dropped Mysterious Maiden, like it was super dope feedback. We were hitting really dope like blogs, and basically touching different places. People from Paris, people from Brussels, people like all over, like just being able to like making sure that the love is shown. Vienna, someone from Vienna was it's just crazy. Those are the things that when we first all started coming together to do this, even before recording the project, but forming SCR, like those were some of the things that were etched as potential milestones for us. So seeing that already it was huge, and just hearing it back, what I mean, it's mad personal. So being in quarters, close quarters with like people that you see every day, and they hear like songs like Lonnie and songs like Road, like songs you like, damn, like almost naked or something like that. But it's a beautiful. It was really a beautiful thing. It was freeing. It was very, very freeing, and just the reception is bonkers, and I'm sure it's not gonna stop, at all.
He's in the Zoom. Oh yeah.
Right? Like I already like the style.
It's not that good. It's probably the loudest on the globe.
Turn it up on your life.
I mix it mad low. I gotta mix it better. I got a project produced by my Uncle S coming out, called 92. That one's like 75% done. Another project we produced with Dr. G coming out, probably sooner than later. That thing might just drop tomorrow. Cool. No, I'm not. But yeah, that's like right now is what I have on my table. And then other than that, just chipping away at other projects that I'm working on that aren't, that have no release date. And ultimately, my goal is to definitely get back to Volume 2. So, hopefully, Oh yeah. I'll be able to execute the project what I have on my table, and then I can actually try to focus and do what I did. The first project was just put it all out there and do my best to what I think is gonna help us, do the best we can and complete things.
No, yeah, it's really like it's this karmic thing that that I think we all carry with us without talking about it, because it's just our ways of life and the places that we've gotten to as individuals and as men. It's like, what I mean, we're not bad people, you know what I'm saying? And the music that we're giving out is for a reason and for a positive reason, although there might be negative topics in there. It's always with a message, always with a lesson to be learned. And I think that kind of stuff is what gets overlooked a lot of days in the society. It doing, the right thing, quote unquote, all the time. But I do think it also does pay off. And, it's a matter of, it's just a matter of putting that energy out there and then receiving it back. Because the universe, I feel like the universe always makes sure you're taken care of as long as you're taking care of yourself and you're taking care of the people around you. And
hell yeah. Were there any tough parts in this journey?
Hell yeah, man. Nothing great, come easy, just from, moving in together, living together, getting ready for sessions, making sure our verses are ready, making sure the stems are ready, making sure you got the hard drive that day. Like, there's, those small obstacles, there's big obstacles, but, when you look back on it, they're all minuscule ones, you know what I mean? Things that you can't really identify with too much, So, the challenges was definitely us as a unit getting here, and that's each of us have our own thing that we have to do on a daily to get here, and each of us was doing it before we even got to get together and say let's do it as a unit. So it's definitely been challenges, 100%.
Mm-hmm. Give me I forgot what my shit sound like. You forced it. Give me all of them. I want to be honest, bro. This shit I don't know, fam. Oh yeah.
Well, for one, it was received well by the people that were looking for the project, so that always feels good. And, because as an artist, it's like when you're doing what we're doing and taking chances like sonically and conceptually and just being true as possible, you don't know how that's going to be received in this environment. So it felt good. The people that, are into the hip hop scene and as a whole accepted it, and people are still covering it and digesting it. So we'll see where that goes.
We're working on some merch for Volume 1, just to give the listeners and the audience something to take away with the album. We also are doing some physicals. We haven't narrowed down exactly which type of physicals and what quantity, but that's definitely going to be available, you know what I mean? Because that's a big part of, me as somebody who collects music, you know what I mean? It's, you get one of these projects that comes along, and this is a timeless piece of music, so people are going to want to collect this. People have already been asking about it. But the merch, we definitely are trying to get just gear people could wear, people could be proud of, stuff that looks fly too, but, not crazy, nothing, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be the flashiest stuff, but something that people could rep. So that's in the works already. Physicals are also in the works. So people are going to be able to grab something from us and take away with it, whether that's in person at a show or exclusively online at stayincapital.com, whatever the method is, people are going to be able to come and grab merch for sure.
Jafet's the main link, and I met him through New Element. New Element introduced me to Sleepcore, and then he introduced me to Jafet. That was his 1-2, and at the time I never even thought that there was I know sounds, because I was fresh out here. And I was only exposed to certain music when I first came out of here. So I was looking for a place where I felt I fit. And I heard those names and, it was over, and at the time, I think a little bit on then, that was around the time when you met Danny, you know what I mean? Literally, because I remember when I first met Jafet, I saw a video not too long before that, and it was the video of the performance of him and Sleep and New, and Last Divine on DJ, the whole shebang bang, and I was like, whoa, this is what I want to do too. I want to be a part of something like this, and that's just backstory. And then a couple years later, I moved back to Philly, and this is my perspective, of course. But was in talks with Jafet, and he was sending music out, and he was just saying, he really wants to pursue it, hardcore. And I know around that time, him and Danny were, regulars. And I heard of Danny previously, and so getting a chance, through then, me and him, through Jafet,
And then yeah, we had mad hybrids of what was to be this. You know what I mean? Different locations, different amounts of people, different mad stuff. But yeah, it was a super long journey, but it ended up originally being us, and that's what it is.
Well, the local newspaper, Telegram Gazette, wrote a nice article on it. So Victor did his thing on that. So that's a big blessing, and something that we go always remember and be part of. The legacy and some of the accolades, and something that we could be back physically. Like it's proof. It's like history. You know what I mean? It's like a page on the Bible to have to have that. So, and then we were also blessed to have the opportunity to have the billboard in Times Square and get to experience that together, which was amazing. And I know a lot of people saw it, and it lets people know that we're making a push to make it more. It's more than just a local thing, or like there's no boundaries to what we can do with it. You know what I'm saying? And it's dope to see where that takes us.
So the first run of gear is mostly the Chef 2D logo, so the black and white Chef, not the Chef that's on the album cover. And it's a really minimalistic look. The first collection that we're working on. But outside of that, it's really just going to be things that are tied to our message, or things that are literally our images, which are the chefs, the 3D chef, anything that we might draw, digitalize, and make a piece of art. That's the kind of stuff you can expect from us.
Yeah, I think we all come to the table and bring all the best things we have, and then from there we kind of just sort it out. But it's definitely when you're one person, you have you gotta be everything. And when there's three people, someone's like, yo, I could do this, I could do this, do this. Maximizing. It's just. Yeah, it's just mathematics, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And even that, like, who to know better than another artist going through life, especially as a man, coming into it, all similar stories where it's like, it's easier to be like, yeah, man, like I can't, right now I'm not here, or I can't do this, or, it makes we all are our strongest shoulders, we all get a chance to be there and carry each other when times are tough. And I think that's when you're by yourself, you usually just got you on your own ass. You know what I'm saying? It's just about how many times you get up.
There's a lot of ups and downs. It's not always like, yo, here's a project, there's a dope project with a beautiful cat on it with the ill chain smoking a blizzy. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not just that. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot, and the music describes that perfectly. You know what I mean? So that's the best part. Be able to get it done, and for me it's like, all right, it's done. We're gonna celebrate it a little bit more, digest it a little bit more, because it's still fresh. I don't know when you guys will be able to see this, but from this point it's still fresh. So I'm looking forward to see how people keep opening up to it, and where it takes us in the future.
So the Chef logo, Chef, that is the cat, Chef Paws Williams. He was Trey Williams and Kanan's cat. Shared them over at, what was that, Gate Street, I believe, and that's when I. Damn, the history of Chef. So Chef's just been a family cat, man. He's been in the fam, bro. Yeah, he's a real particular dude, but he's living his best life right now. So. He just kind of was like the mascot in all of our lives at that point. I think for those 2-3 years, he was just the constant. You know what I mean? You could always expect Chef to come around the corner and slash your toenail when you're not looking. And so we all kind of grew to love him just by being around him. And so I want to say, I think it was Kay that drew the first Chef logo. A really rough sketch. He drew it on a whiteboard that we had in the kitchen, and from there we just brought it to different artists to recreate it. Yeah, there was so many renditions of the Chef.
Man, it should be a blast. Anything we do is always good vibes, and I think people know that. So as long as, you know, with COVID, everything going nowhere, you know, we should be able to get this shit pretty live. And I feel like that's like the icing on the cake. That shit's gonna be official. I can't wait for the listening party, you know what I'm saying? Act a fool on that thing, pop some bottles, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, that's like, for me, that's like like I can close the door on the project. You know what I'm saying? And I'm more personally down to perform some of the music if possible and shit, but like I wouldn't be able to just be like, all right, next one, you know what I'm saying? Leave it for the people and then just be able to clean my plate and keep going. You know, whether it's a solo project or a collaboration or, you know, whatever, like anything's possible really, especially within the camp. Like, we don't, it's not just like us, like, you know, we'll have special guests on the project and we plan on it and we have, you know, a bunch of people that we mess with that we want to work with and collab with and have with SCR, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, also just building, looking forward, looking for more talent, more people to be able to build with and just make this something, you know what I'm saying, that everyone could be proud of, a movement that people could admire, you know, for doing the right things and taking chances, you know what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, because doing the right thing is all subjective, but just taking a chance artistically and being pure and, you know, regardless of what's the outcome. Like, even if there wasn't no billboard, like, I would still feel the same way about the project and, like, what we did, what we built, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, everything else is more like, after the music, it's like more for the people for me. Like, you know, whether they fuck with it or not, like, but we got people that genuinely fuck with it, and we're blessed for that, so, yeah, it feels good, man. It feels good to be able to finish it and celebrate it.
You know what I mean? It's just same thing with the music, you know what I mean? It's just one of those organic things that it just comes out if you keep working and thinking about it, you know what I mean? It's one of those creative things that just boop. Yeah. And hey man, looks great. Shout out to everybody that's been riding with us, man. Shout out to the people that believe in us to this day. We appreciate it. It doesn't go unnoticed. Here's to more music, more content, more shows, more adventures, more brotherhood, more things of that nature. Shout out to the Huepas, Los Huepas. It's your boy. We out here.
I just want to say that I'm proud of us, and you know what I'm saying? I hope that it did for y'all what it did for me, you know what I'm saying? And I appreciate the journey, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't change anything. To this day, I wouldn't change anything. And I'm looking forward to just, like, you know, just doing more and doing things that we can be proud of, like, you know, more than anything, just doing things that we can be proud of. So, in the music, out the music, you know, that's it.
Man, for me, definitely, besides like, you know, my personal contributions as a producer, you know, being able to have a chance to have people basically bet on me, you know what I mean? Like, put me in their, you know, in their minds and their thoughts. That was huge for me. And it was just different than anything ever. I've been in many situations before, and a lot of the times I was always just a separate entity, and you know, I brought what I could bring to the table. But in this, I felt like it was very easy to completely be myself and have something beautiful come from it. You know what I mean? So that was very, very different for me.
Yeah. So I mean, there's no Volume 1 without Giano, and there's no State and Capitol recordings I see without Giano. That was, you know, it was a 4-man squad from the jump, and I mean, there's plenty to say about Giano. He's a character, man. I mean, if you've met him, you know. Great producer, you know what I mean. And he added his own spice, and he stepped out of his comfort zone for this whole project, which is a blessing and a gift. You know what I mean. Because from the jump, he was saying how he didn't want to rap. You know what I mean? But he did, and he put his heart out there. It wasn't like he bullshitted. He didn't bullshit. You know what I mean? So, yeah, man, he was a very integral piece to that project being made, and man, shout out to him for helping us make it happen and you know, still root from us from the sidelines, even though, you know, he took a step back. Yeah, man. One love.
We reloading, you know what I'm saying? we're gonna keep dropping projects, man. It's all about catalog. You know, all of us want to be able to look back and say that anything included with Stand Capital was real and official and put together. You know, hand by hand. You know what I mean? Just regular dudes. You know, but people who really love us. And yeah, I appreciate everybody who take the time to even listen, or take the time to listen, stream. You know, people who ask about what's next. And yeah, and of course, my brothers are the ones who helped me do this, and we all did this as a unit. And you know, it's a big thanks to them because it shows that we could, you know, actually get things done. You know what I mean, as people, and through tough and through, you know, through easy roads and stuff like that.
It all came together. It all came together. 8Bizza, Big ES, Tatiana. Man, it's like when you look back at it, it's really a crazy, crazy project. And we did a lot of work on it, man. We did a lot of work. DNA Beats. You did! Brady, I mean, the magician himself, that guy, if somebody doesn't buy him a yacht before he dies, then, like, y'all fucked up. I mean, maybe I'll buy him the yacht. I don't know. But that guy he's something special. He's a national treasure. Massachusetts needs to hold him down. Don't let him ever leave Mass. And yeah, man. Peace out until next time. Shout out your boy.
About to break up more?
Standing on Stand Capital, the sink to the finish. Chicken. Been a long time coming, like Jay said. It's about time.